as you can tell from that little film clip, I knew and always do know exactly what I'm doing. Thank you. Here is my little block today. More like a cake. So it's a bit smaller than yours, I believe. Yes. How is your block? Good. Right. Anyway, since that event, I formed a very close relationship with a duck. And I've always felt I can rely on him. He's never let me down. And I use him for the following purpose. I put him in the bucket which receives melting ice, and if successful, he starts bobbing up and down, and like a gauge, and I know exactly my relative success or lack of success. But that's a new addition. I don't think the duck was in that one, was he? No. No. Anyway, I also am in the habit of taking Polaroid pictures and of each block, because the concept, I suppose, is, you know, impermanence and permanence and impermanence, mainly impermanence. And I've got a big book of Polaroids here, and for example, randomly just choose a block from my ice book, and this was actually block 235, so a bit senior to that one, on the 28th of May 1994. Was that before you were born? Or were it? Was it? Yes. Anyway, there's that picture. And my paintings really started based on interpreting the original blocks, but then the blocks sort of developed in my mind and I interpreted them in a more imaginative way. So the gift the blocks has given to me personally is, later in life, the gift of painting. So whatever you think of my paintings, I enjoy the process of painting. So I will just talk you through some of what I do. I always stamp my blocks with a sort of post office stamper to make sure they're authentic. And as you can see from this diagram, you'll probably now recognise all the things that you've just witnessed. So for example, can you see my friend? The duck, yeah. Can you see the block? Can you see the Iceman? Totally recognisable. Can you see his de-icer spray? Can you see his breath? It's not that I've got bad breath, it's just the breath melts the block. Anyway, that diagram I think have you seen that diagram yet? No, I sent it in advance. Anyway, I'll talk you through very briefly what you've just seen really. So, I'll put that down there. So I get the block. I'm not performing, I'm talking through it really. So I put the block on my sophisticated system. Can you see it? Can you see that?
We can see it.
Yep.
We can hear you when you're there.
Yeah, oh, good. And today, in your honour, I have a second block. So, I'll put that there as well. Okay. There we are. Then, have you got masks on? Usually I get people to breathe towards the block, but you probably can't do it due to the COVID. Yeah. Okay. No. Keep it safe. Then I use breath. I use salt. I use sandpaper. sandpaper. The funnel collects the ice. I turn into a de-icer spray. Then I try a candle. But it works sometimes. Then I use a blowtorch sort of thing. I've got a radio mic so people can hear me. That's the watering can. And I put them on. Then I start banging it. Like I do, that sort of thing. Okay. Then I blow it up. I use magnifying glass. And there we go. No, it's fine. That's what I do. I can't hear anything. I can't hear anything. Speak up, I can't hear anything. Hello? Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Anyway, it's over to you. Oh, I forgot to put the duck in the bucket. Okay, put the duck in the bucket. There he goes, in there. Whoop. Okay, very good. So, is everything clear? Is it time for the question and answer session? Thank you. Good.
I'll just pin him here so everyone can see him. There we go. Maya, do you want to come onto the camera and then ask your question? We can all see and hear you.
Hello, Mars. Hello, Mars.
Hello, Mr. Iceman. It's really I really am quite enthralled by this sort of conceptual art that you're presenting to us today. I just wanted to ask, so you talk about the interplay of sort of permanence and impermanence. How would you say that you've contributed to the discourse surrounding temporal metaphysics using your work and the idea that sort of things sort of remain? And also, secondly, how would you say that sort of different dimensions of the different icebergs, how would you say that that affects your concepts sort of in different permutations? And also, like, do you feel that you've contributed to the climate change discourse, particularly using water as your medium? Thank you.
Thank you. There's quite a few questions in one question there. Can the chairman just briefly take the 3 main points from that, I think? Remember, I've just deafened myself.
So how does that metaphor kind of complicate itself?
Yep. Okay.
Guys, you need to be quiet so that you can hear Amar.
Yes.
There were actually 2 points.
Yeah, permanence and impermanence and climate change. Just
yes.
Well,
yes. I used to refer to the ozone hole, which people seem to have forgotten about now. Probably, I used to see it positively and say, oh, I can see God more clearly now. That was meant to be a joke. Thank you, you laughed. Because I used to be totally visual and physical, and then in order to get bookings, I compromised. I'm going off the point here, and I sort of tried to tell bad jokes, or not bad jokes, but just jokes, as an excuse to perform, if you see what I mean, because the main venues I performed at were the old stand-up comedy type pubs. I used to annoy and endear fellow comedians in equal measure, but I think the whole idea of global warming is implicit in my work, as that guy Myers picked up as, and I suppose I'm wondering when the next species comes, perhaps. So I'm raising quite a few questions which none of us really can answer. So I'm a question raiser.
I like that as an approach to raising questions you can't answer.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yes. But I think the ice is so richly symbolic, other than just impermanence and permanence. It's symbolic of the human condition, samsara, life, death, love. Like, you know, you could go on forever, really. The ice ages. I mean, the history of the planet Earth is a series of ice ages and not so icy ages. So, in a way, I'm in tune with Mother Earth.
How do you feel towards the ice? Because the axe has a kind of violent component. There's also a lot of sort of devotional art to the ice.
That's,
Is there a contradiction or?
well, that's an interesting question. I think the answer to that is every block is different. As I told Iceman, one of my blocks melted prematurely, so when I went to the venue, I emptied the bucket and it was all water anyway. And the only laugh I got was, I can go home now. Similarly, at the old comedy store in Leicester Square, what I used to call a sort of skinhead, a tough, rather right-wing looking guy, came up and kidnapped the block. He took the block away. Again, the only laugh I got was, job done. Is that funny? Job done. But you know, I don't know if everybody would feel this, but I do find every block very different in its character. And I'll have to review today's block, sir. But it is a sort of relationship thing. And as you can see, I become rather desperate. And I think I told a man that, you know, for me it started as a therapy, a sort of cry for help. And then, due to my predicament, my sort of desperate awareness of my situation, which was quite specific to me, although I had a very secure upbringing, what I discovered was my blocks got happier and happier. And I'm hoping to reach nirvana quite soon. And I think nirvana might be reached via my painting, ironically. Have I answered the question?
Yes. Do we have any questions from the floor, from the audience? Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering, you got the cardboard on behind you. What's the AIM? Your website has a lot of
Aim.
yeah. What's the aim? What's behind that? What's the
Yes, thank you. Good question. AIM. AIM is, I'm also, as I said, aiming for nirvana, or name. But it also stands for my initials in a number of ways. For example, Anthony Irvin Mann, or Anthony Iceman. Do you see what or Anthony Im, which is short for Iceman. And so it's got a double reason, but it's also to signify my painting name. So my performance work was done under the name of the Iceman, but my painting is done under the name of Aim, which includes Iceman. So really it was a way of highlighting my new identity as a high-ranking painter. And I do sell some, believe it or not. But aim is a double meaning. I mean, I'm very interested in how to communicate, as you can see. And so aim is a way of including in my own self in an unegoistic way in as many words as possible. I want attention, but I'm very modest at the same time.
And also, guys, follow on Instagram and YouTube. Remember that.
Yes,
Any questions from the floor?
my followers are growing.
Oh yeah, so a question from Nina over there.
Do you have a favorite method of destroying the aimnswer or an order that comes to you in the moment?
Thank you. Sorry, could the chairman repeat that?
It's what's your favourite way of melting ice?
Oh, my favourite of all the ways I could do it?
Yes.
Yes, that's an interesting question. I think my favourite way is just to leave it alone. Leave it aim alone. And when I say that, for example, I did a TV show once, because believe it or not, I was a sort of novelty act for variety TV shows, and I ordered, I didn't make the blocks myself, I had like a mountain of blocks, and I just left them alone, and the TV camera found it quite dull, but then I went back a couple of days later, and it was still there, in a reduced form. And so I suppose it's, but I am a bit of a catalyst. But I think leave alone is quite relevant, which makes me completely redundant. Or redundant.
Well, we've got another question from Nikhil.
Hello?
At what point do you think performance art stops being art and it just becomes like an event that happens? Like, for example, with your own art, where do you think the limit is that makes it's art?
So when does my performance art become art?
Well, when does it stop being art? Like, if you take art to its like one extreme, that is not art.
Yes.
Where's the line between art and
Yes. Well, a good question. And funny enough, our man originally said, is stand-up comedy an art form? Of course, comedians today are very, very slick, aren't they? So they're so sort of chiselled that I suppose they could be a type of artist. My art is very rough and ready. I think my performance art, for want of a better name, became art very early on, block one, as soon as I shared it with an adoring public. Not always adoring, actually. Aim-doring public. Publice. But it became more and more art-based as comedians chucked me out of comedy clubs. I haven't answered the question.
Can you tell us about that?
I mean, I'll give you an example of an artist who hasn't influenced me, but I'm aware of, called Roman Opolka, a sort of French-Polish artist. All he did in the latter stages of his life was write down numbers on a canvas every day from 1, and his aim was to get to infinity, and I think he got to about 5 million plus before he died. But I can't help thinking, a lot of people would say, oh, that's not art, it's not even a concept, it's just people playing games. And of course, compared to someone like Marina Abramovich, or even Yoko Ono or something like that, my performance art, I realise, is rather superficial and light, and yet I believe there are pearls of wisdom amongst them. So, to me, living is an art, and so I'm just trying to share my life with people a bit, because I'm quite lonesome, really. Although I do have a woman, Ice Woman, my wife. That's a musical intermission. Sorry, can someone tell me what was the question? I'd like to come in the...
Yeah, we've got a question from Jodie.
Hi,
Hello.
how do you paintings further explore sort of your discussion of permanence and impermanence? And how does that sort of compare to your live performances? Is this sort of a further attempt to explore more of the permanence? Like, I think Maya has mentioned in the comments your Polaroid photos, they in some ways distill in a way the essence and the spirit of your work with ice, and so in that way it's permanent. Do you feel like the same applies to your paintings?
Thank you. Could the chairman interpret that question because of my deafness due to the gunshot?
I think it's essentially, do you think you explore permanence and impermanence in your paintings in a way that is similar or different to the ice?
Oh yes. Now that's interesting because at first I thought, how do I transfer ice blocks to my paintings? But now I can play that idea a lot. For example, I can get a melting effect on my paintings using various fluids, including oils and stuff. And also I can paint different shapes to show different stages of the blocks. Also, the paintings refer to particular blocks sometimes. So again, I'm playing with the idea of they're living on in a different form. I suppose my philosophy at base is the blocks live on even if I don't. Do you like that?
Wow.
Thank you.